and welcome to everyone who's watching online. Any apologies for absence?
Yes, we've had apologies today from Councillor Pryor, Councillor Simpson, Councillor Smalley, Cameron Rashid, Leanne Tredeschi, Dominic Bascombe, Matt Wanstall, Catherine Mitchell, Deborah Munt and Helen Funston.
Thank you so much. Any declarations of interest? Any members have interest they wish to declare on any item? No, thank you so much. Moving on. Exclusion of press. Thank you so much, Mickey. Exclusion of press and public. No press and public excluded items on this agenda. Item 4, minutes of the meeting. We last met October the 22nd, 28th of October 22nd. Any comments or questions?
Just it was fabulous to be in the piece.
I was just about to say that.
Yes, we all agree, we concur that it was fantastic to be in the amazing Peace Hall. So thank you for that. And we'll find another brilliant venue for our next meeting. We can confirm these are an accurate record. Super, moving on. So, just a short update from myself. All the great news that's happening in our region. The launch of Leeds 2023, The Awakening, wasn't that amazing, and Alan Lane needs a round of applause. And also the visionary nature of it, the inclusivity of it, the diversity was just so great to see. Input from students and staff of Leeds Conservatoire, performances from students and graduates from across Leeds institutions. If that was the beginning, goodness knows how it's going to end. And the drones just blew everybody's minds, so thank you. Also, Kirklees Year of Music 2023 kicked off with the Musica Conference in Huddersfield with the amazing Yolanda Brown speaking about the importance of music education. You'll know she's the new chair of BPI and an extraordinary self-taught saxophonist. And she's just off the scale brilliant. PRS Foundation, in partnership with the Launchpad Music Local, have launched the PPL Momentum Accelerator. Now, this is a targeted scheme to support the development of outstanding artists and bands who are writing their own music, obviously outside of London, and face additional barriers in reaching a career tipping point. So Yorkshire-based artists are eligible for up to £5,000 in grant funding, and the deadline is the 6th of February. And Whiskers, Sam, will be able to share more details if you have young people that you think are aspiring singers and songwriters, but maybe if every member of the committee got details of that to share around, that would be helpful if you don't mind sharing. Leeds Uni, Leeds City Council, Arts Council and Leeds 2023 are supporting the development of the National Poetry Centre and looking for a development director to take this project to the next level. So with all your connections and networks, please do share that amazing opportunity. Talking of poetry, our work with Simon Armitage on the Young Poet Laureate is progressing well. Plenty of schools and students interested in taking part. Also, the Peace Hall has also opened the new year with a bang, and looking forward to welcoming more iconic artists, including Sting. And I've got my tickets, so it's because I have friends in high places. But it would be nice having a works outing if anybody fancies going to see Sting. University of Huddersfield was also awarded funding by the UK Research Institute and Arts and Humanities Research Council to consider how creative community assets can be mobilised to help tackle health inequalities. And that's something I know you all share my passion about, making sure that culture is available for all. And part of that is opening up community assets for the local people to create their own opportunities. And update that BPI have now officially submitted their bid to open a Brit School North in Bradford. So even just to get to that point, I think just shows how Bradford is really making waves across the whole country, that people now want to be here in West Yorkshire and be part of our creative crucible and to show how culture can level up. So that's all the good news. So, item 6, we go on to economic and sector reporting. Peter, where are you? Oh, there you are, right at the end. To provide the context, Peter Glover will give a brief overview of the latest economic data. So this is item 6 in your pack. And an overview of the implications of the forthcoming energy bill discount scheme and also an overview of plans for evaluation in support of the culture, heritage and sport framework. I've tasked Peter to identify how we can prove that culture levels up using data, making sure that we have that watertight case to say to government, you invest in culture and you will get good outcomes. So over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, looking at the economic context, we're mostly relying on national data here, which is published on a regular basis. And just a reminder that within the paper, we use two broad categories. So we've got art, entertainment and recreation, which includes creative arts and entertainment, heritage, sport and recreation. And we also use information and communication, and just to unpack that, that includes publishing, screen industries and digital activities. So in terms of the overall picture, there's some continuity with last time in that the high-level economic data for the sector shows that most indicators are not seeing sort of significant deterioration. We know there are ongoing challenges, as we discussed previously, however, and there's a degree of uncertainty how things will evolve. In terms of sort of size of the sector, the output of the sector, what we can say is that the wider economy has avoided recession so far in the period to the end of 2022, and that's because there's been some growth in October and November, and that also looks likely to be the case for information and communication and arts, entertainment and recreation. Both of those bits of the sector saw a degree of growth in October and November, so it looks like they'll avoid recession during 2022. In terms of employment, the latest data that we have is for September, and that shows robust growth for information and communication and a flat position for arts, entertainment and recreation in the preceding quarter. So information and communication is now 9%, employment is now 9% higher than pre-pandemic, but arts, entertainment and recreation is still not back to pre-pandemic levels. So there's still a deficit there in employment terms for arts, entertainment and recreation. In terms of pay, we're still seeing a situation where the tight labour market is reflected in strong increases in average pay in both bits of the sector. So 10% year-on-year growth for arts, entertainment and recreation nationally in nominal terms, and 7% for information and communication according to the latest data. And that, for both of those figures, are above the national average growth for the wider economy of 6%. But when we look at that in real terms, we don't have the real terms figures for by industry, but the overall wider economy growth of 6% in average pay equates to a 2% fall in real terms. So what we can see is that there's very little real terms growth in pay, even though we're seeing quite big increases in cash terms. In terms of vacancies, the latest data supports the picture of a continued tight labour market. So at national level, we are seeing some falls in vacancies from the peaks that we saw earlier in 2022. And that's because those really elevated levels were not sustainable. But when we look at the local picture, up to the end of December 2022, so we have figures around online job postings, we can see there's no sign of any sustained fall in recruitment activity so far in West Yorkshire for the sector. And that demand is being driven by digital and marketing vacancies as previously, but we're also seeing quite strong trends in publishing and screen industry occupations as well. So we're still seeing a tight labour market. So that's the economic context. In terms of the energy bill discount scheme, we thought that was worth bringing to the committee's attention because there are important implications for the sector. So at the last meeting, we focused on the cost of doing business crisis, which is linked to energy costs, and also the impact of reduced disposable income on the sector. A key development since then has been the announcement of the energy bill discount scheme on 9th of January. One of the key implications of that new scheme is that the level of resources available to support businesses' energy costs will be reduced by 2/3, and the available resources will be targeted on energy and trade-intensive industries. So there's an actual list of those industries that will be targeted for support. Heritage industries are included on the list, but sports facilities are not included. And so activities like swimming pools, which are energy intensive, won't benefit from that targeted support. But more broadly, smaller businesses in the sector are likely to receive much less support under this scheme than they did under the Energy Bill Relief Scheme. So that scheme will be running from April 2023. So we're likely to see quite a big impact there in view of what we considered last time in terms of the big increases in energy costs for businesses in the sector. So the third part of the paper is around evaluation plans. So we now have a culture, heritage and sport framework in place, and that includes a set of indicators that are designed to show the progress that we're making against our ambitions for the sector. And my colleague Janet Brown will be leading on taking forward the evaluation arrangements. What we've done is undertaken a review of how to best capture the information we need to measure that progress, taking into account limited resources available. And in the paper, we've set out some initial recommendations. So first of all, a participation survey. We're proposing a survey to gauge participation attitudes to culture, heritage and sport in West Yorkshire, amongst West Yorkshire residents, which we feel will fill an important information gap at West Yorkshire level. So that will comprise a baseline study and also a follow-up survey to assess change over time. That latter study will probably take place in 2026, or we're suggesting that might be the case. And we're also at the same time drawing together existing evidence, for example, from local authority level of that kind that we can use to supplement the West Yorkshire survey and look at the recent picture, the impact in recent years. The second key element of the proposed activities is a freelancer survey. So as will be discussed today, a business case is moving forward to unlock gain share funding for business and skills support for the culture, heritage and sports sector, as we'll be discussing that today. But a key focus of that business case is around freelancers, where we know there's a gap in appropriate support. So to inform the detailed design of that support, we're proposing to implement a freelancer survey to assess the needs of the freelancer community. Then the third and final element of the proposal is around expert advice and collaboration around evaluation. So Ben Walmsley and the School of Performance and Cultural Industries are already provided us with helpful advice. We're proposing, or we're going to explore the potential to extend that sort of advice using the resources potentially available from the Yorkshire University's YPERN scheme in order to strengthen academic input. And we're also be exploring opportunities to collaborate with Bourne and Bradford, who are undertaking research into how arts and culture can benefit well-being. So there's a definite sort of crossover there. So that's my input. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. If I could open this up, and I know that Phil wants to say a few words, but there are partners that are going to help us. So having met with Darren Henley this week, they're very keen, and I'm sure they have data as well, to show, for example, on participation and exclusion from culture. I know that Creative Scene have done a fair bit of this engagement, and that's how they got the Creative Scene was set up, because there was poor engagement. So we have partners that can help us. We don't have to start from the beginning. You know, we do have data out there that will help. I want to ask people about their energy bills, just to get a live, sort of a litmus test of what's going on. But Phil, did you want to say a few words?
Yeah, just to echo first, the evidence and data, we've got a real platform here as a region with the Years of Culture to do something kind of consistently across it. So to try and what we do to measure all the Years of Culture in a consistent way, to show that impact, to make sure the naysayers are proved wrong about the impact culture can have on the economy, happiness and life. And Ben is on our committee, and we've got other people in the region like Professor John Wright at Bourne and Bradford, who will be excellent assets for this. What I did want to say though was not that, but on my wider remit, which covers kind of business support, we have launched in the autumn a emergency support grant to support businesses with to kind of make their business premises more energy efficient. and that program's now in train. And we've had a lot of interest in that program, and it's the first time we've done something like this that's open to business to consumer businesses, so retail, hospitality businesses. And what we found through that scheme is most of the people we've been providing support to are actually in the retail, hospitality and leisure sector. So we've been providing kind of real support for businesses in this sector that are probably struggling because they haven't had that access to that support more, which is both a negative and a positive story. But there is wider than this remit support to people in this sector that I just wanted to draw the committee's attention to.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the committee about this report from Peter? I'm astonished that we're not back to pre-COVID numbers, given all the activity that's happening regionally. So it would be good to get a sense of where that challenge is, and also around energy. Is this crisis in energy stopping you delivering your cultural offer? Anybody like to come in? Yes, Nikki.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, it's really impacted our running costs. So we're a free-to-enter visitor attraction, and our energy bills, even with government support, have gone from around 100k a year to 300k a year. And it's really significant. And it does actually really affect our ability to continue to operate in the way in which we're operating before and create that economic uplift for Calderdale. So for us, this has been the most significant impact on our business. And, without ongoing support, we're really concerned about sustainability. To put it candidly, it's really quite frightening, the numbers. And although we managed to secure significant funding from DCMS, which enabled us to have reserves, we've burnt through that and are burning through that at the moment. So, yeah, I think it's still, for us, it's very much a kind of burning platform issue, which we need to have a serious conversation with government around. Even with the heritage support, it doesn't even touch the sides of what we need to keep the building going.
Blimey. And I've missed an opportunity, Nikki, to welcome you as co-chair.
Thank you.
For the committee, and look forward to working with you closely for West Yorkshire. So that is quite galling as well. And we know that across West Yorkshire, swimming pools are closing, which affects people's well-being and so on. Anybody like to come in? Yes, Nathan.
I was just going to ask on the data sets, and we brought up last time, not only on the jobs side of it with the Kickstart scheme, but is the data slightly skewed based on a lot of the support coming post-pandemic? And do we have, and that will have given us this buffer period to report on, do we have any forecasts, and specifically for West Yorkshire, out of a normal time when we've got several years of culture all coming that are driving job retention and other things, what will a normal period look like if we didn't have that? And I think we have to take into account those possibilities, because we have all been supported through this last couple of years, and the job numbers, like we say, that were increased through Kickstart schemes, it seems to me that we may need to have a realistic reflection on where we may stand from January this year onwards, and what may look quite bad in places may actually be devastatingly bad in realistic terms now those supports have ended. So is there something that we need to do to look at doomsday scenario rather than just this?
Thank you, Nathan. Peter.
Yes, so at the moment we're in the process of refreshing our economic forecasts. So what that will give us is a pic. I mean, we have forecasts already, but they've been very much complicated. You know, the water's been muddied by recent sort of crises. We've had, of course, we've had COVID, and then the cost of living crisis. What the refresh forecast will do is give us a medium-term sort of picture of what's likely to happen across the economy, including within these relevant sectors. It won't build in the impact of of things like the Year of Culture, so it would give us a kind of counterfactual to what would happen without those sorts of interventions. So yeah, but I think the big caveat I would give is that forecasting at the moment is really difficult, because the situation is so volatile and things are changing month by month. Generally speaking, the OBR forecasts, so the national forecasts, economic forecasts, point towards which are very broad, point towards a slight improvement in the kind of prospects in the medium term, because some things have improved around energy. Slight improvement is things like wholesale energy costs. But if we drill down, of course, I think, you know, there is potential for sort of a challenging situation for some sectors still.
Thank you. I think it is worth having a look about that series of scenarios. It feels like inflation is falling, but, you know, what would the future potentially look like once this intervention around energy in particular comes to an end? So we can maybe make an intervention to DCMS or to the Treasury collectively to say we've done the mapping and we're all going to fall off a cliff with all these great festivals, these great businesses, if you don't intervene. Nathan again.
Right. And I can tell you there's already the theatre groups and networks are already coming together to provide data and evidence sets. Us as Live, which I sit on as well, are already doing that. We've got an economist employed, Chris Carey, who's come from Blakeney Group and some others. So there's already sections that are going up. They've said they've had more look and come back from the Department of Levelling Up and BEIS than they have from DCMS, that doesn't really carry any weight and caveat in Treasury, and therefore is there other areas that we need to provide in those data sets too to get more weight and sway with where we need to talk to? Is the direction of anything like this where we can focus on?
Thank you. And certainly Michael Gove does seem to be open to conversations about interventions at a regional level. So we'll take that away, Nathan. Thank you for that. And we can speak to officers about who would need to look at this projection. And if you would be happy to liaise with Peter about the opportunities to share information, then we can act more swiftly. Yep. That would be helpful. Yes.
Thank you. Going back to the swimming pools, you've obviously made a point there about the swimming pools, and we'll see what comes out, and also the pressure under the sports clubs as well, and the voluntary sports clubs with the energy costs. But it's not just about survival. What we are seeing and the intelligence we're getting is that the prices are going up quite steeply. So that will just be driving greater inequalities that we understand. So it's just not the measure of kind of organisation surviving, it's actually then the participation and who's using them. Which takes us then back to, I think what you're alluding to, Chair, around the data. If we can be supportive about the different data we've got and come in, but also kind of have an ambition really of how we not just do our own data sets and surveys, but how we can mine the data that's already gathered and how that all comes together in a single place. And hopefully then we'll get a bit more real-time data rather than a survey from our perspective every 12 months or every 2 years. And so we can, there's a lot of data there that if we can just raise our heads and bring it together, I don't know if we can be working on that as well as just a survey really.
And obviously it's cross sectors, so film and TV, live spaces, council buildings and so on. I'm not quite sure how the swiftest way to do this is, but I'm sure people cleverer than me will be able to consolidate all the data. I'm looking at you, Ben, and Peter, to draw this all together across the committee, because like you say, we already sit on a whole pile of data. Surely it's better to draw it all together. Okay, are we happy just to acknowledge the report? And obviously there are further things we can do. Please do look at our the energy reduction opportunity for various sectors, because that is a new opportunity for business in the entertainment industry. So, Baloo, over to you.
Thanks so much, Chair, for the opportunity to talk about East Byley Community Sports Association. And I brought two trustees with me. If you just jump on a mic for 5 seconds and just introduce yourselves. Andrew and Simon Armitage.
First. One on the left. So yeah, I can go first. Yeah. Well, listen, thank you everybody for giving us the opportunity to come and speak today. I mean, I feel a little bit embarrassed here. I'm just a volunteer. I'm somebody whose life was turned around as a result of getting involved with grassroots sport. And when I'm not the poet, by the way, as well. So just to clarify that one. I'll give it a go at the end if you want. Yeah. So yeah. Well, once my body had given up playing sport, I decided that it was time to give something back, and we went on a journey to basically try and improve the sporting facilities that were available in our community, and that took us on a journey which saw us form a registered charity. We went through the first asset transfer of the playing fields in Kirklees to take place. Since 2016, when Tracy kindly opened our new changing rooms, which you can see in the picture on the screen behind Tracy there, we've raised over £1.2 million, which we've either invested back into the facilities at the site, or which we've had to in effect raise from a running cost perspective. So it's quite a significant achievement that we've made, but there's still a long way to go. So that's me.
And changing rooms for girls.
Next
I'll let
phase.
Luke touch on the progress we've made with the,
I'll
with
touch
the
on that.
girls' village.
Yeah, I think just following from Simon, I got involved in 2016. Basically, I live in the community. I'm a chartered building surveyor and project manager. So it's a case of really what benefit could we bring to actually developing the site. And it really was engaging with the community, getting lots of feedback, and actually looking at what it could be and pulling the estates plan together. And that's what we've done over the past since 2016. And we've gone through a right battle with planning last year. Took us a year to get this through planning. We've now got a full estate strategy. It's got planning permission. We're now working on, I think, 44 conditions with the authority, which is lovely, to get this through so we can actually start on site. And all we're really doing today is raising awareness of the scheme and how much benefit. It's not just going to bring sport, but bring our community. I'm going to pass it over to Blue because he's going to pull all that together for you.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I think it's in a really exciting place is East Bailey at the minute, and for me, one of these I joined in because I think sports can do so much for communities, and it's been really interesting in engaging with the community and listening to what they actually want. So obviously one of the first things were the girls and the girls football, girls rugby even, football's the next stage, and from that it's really just umbrellaed out. Like, it was really interesting. I'll tell you two Christmas stories. 2 days before New Year's Eve, I had a phone call from someone saying, traditionally it's a father and son's game, New Year's Eve at the rugby club. Why don't we do newly formed women's rounders team and the under 14 girls team? Why don't we play a rounders game on New Year's Eve? And I went, wow, brilliant. And they played the game, and it was really interesting to see that the women on site would normally be in logistics, support, making hot dogs, were actively involved. 50 women and girls, and it was just a real good paradigm shift from on site, and it just makes such a difference. And I know the women who were involved in the rounders had come from a women's fitness group which started in the summer, and that, I would be honest, it was really interesting to recruit 50, 60 women passionate in the area who wanted to do fitness on site who'd never been, and also a little bit awkward because if you're in a WhatsApp group with 60 women, there's some explaining to do at home, but it was really brilliant to see him take ownership of the site, which is where I feel like the Community Sports Association is going. So it's been really interesting. Ben, I'll get to go to two slides on. Yeah, so what Simon's mentioned, it's a development in the making. Football pitch, rugby pitch, looking at a hybrid 4G pitch so we can get more availability on there for different usage. So at the minute, because I like to talk to different communities, not just in Bradford, in Kirklees, what can this site do to you? What problems can it solve? And I've had a really interesting conversation with two really enthusiastic women from the Roma community. And I put hands up. I didn't know too much about the Roma community, but they pretty much said to me, we don't integrate that well. The children, this teenage pregnancy, and I'm like, brilliant. I can't solve all problems, but I've got this thing called sports, and it does integrate young kids and old kids, and it brings us all together. So at the minute, I'm working on getting 50 young children to come up to site and have a different sort of Saturday morning. And for me, that's the feel for East Bailey. How many problems can we solve with sports as a gateway? And then obviously, whilst they're there, the women were talking, well, can you bring all the health people to come and talk to the parents? So for me, it's a real gateway sports to engage with wider communities. And I think for me, that's one of the things in the last 2 years we've made a really big push towards. If you go to the next slide, Ben. Cheers. So on site now we have, traditionally we've had Birkinshaw at Blue Dogs, and they're still there, the junior and the senior team. The Rounders team will be there this summer, which is fantastic. And one of the beautiful things of having assets locally and as it gets better, and you get so much local creativity. The Rounders team, after the women's fitness team, they were like, so we can meet up every week and get that commitment. Why do we have a Rounders team? And I thought, brilliant. That's what you need. You want people at a local level who can see an asset and think, it's not perfect, but it's going to get there. Can we work on this? Can we bring people together? So that form, which was fantastic. Gummelson and Cleckheaton football team play out the site, and also the rugby union team recently have joined in, which is great. Just get that wider perspective of community use on site. So at the minute, it's a really exciting stage. You've got the Football Foundation who are, at the minute, they're working through an application where they see so much potential on site, and they're speaking to us about how do you open it further, because obviously after engaging with them, like, what else can you do? How much more inclusivity can you do? Disabled access, what can you do in Rugby League? So obviously after the World Cup, I don't know if everyone saw the wheelchair rugby, there's also PDRL. So we're talking on site, how do we get more of that on site? Rugby League has most of the PDRL and limited mobility stuff is done for the professional game, but we've said, we're not a professional Rugby League team, but what can we do on site? Can we answer that question? So for me, I'm always looking at what community things can we do to answer questions, engage with people. So there is some current challenges, like most sports facilities, we are on a journey. The drainage, we're missing out on activity on site because of the fact that we are oversubscribed, and then you've got people like me who keeps bringing more people to site to do different activities. And for me, it becomes a real challenge, especially in the winter. We're trying to put floodlights in and improve the surface. So at the minute, it becomes a bit of an inequality gap, because what happens is, if you've got parents at home who work or finish at 3 o'clock, because we're training all over West Yorkshire, not training on our site, what happens is, if you've got parents at home, you can get to training at 5:30 because they can take you there. But I know there's kids who can't train at the minute because you need a lift if you're going to go all the way to the other side of Kirklees or Bradford in it, and it does hurt us. So I notice the levels of participation in the winter to the summer where we can use East Bailet is so different, and it really, really does affect our participation. And it literally leaves kids going, I can't get there because I've got to wait for my father or mother to come home at 5:30. And I know one of the things that got me into sport was the fact that I could only start going to sports when I could get there myself, which meant I only started playing rugby at 12 or 13 compared to 7, 8, 9, 10 when people can take you there. So that is really detrimental to us, and it's one of the things we are trying to fix. You go to the next one. I think I've covered some of that. Some of the solutions, basically, we just really do need to improve the pitch, the 4G, so you can access to different groups. I had a phone call this morning about a family with childhood autism and Down syndrome, and they wanted to do something on site, and they were questioning, can we do something on site? And I was like, yeah, we'll have to do a risk assessment. And I think, you know what it is, the state of the pitch right now, can you do something safely? Can you not? And I don't want to answer them questions with a negative response. I want there to be facilities on site that are good enough. So if you have some mobility issues, you can still participate in sport. The reality is, for me, it's like 4G facilities, being able to cope with that sort of demand. For me, it's like we need to get to that journey, and that's one of the things we're trying to solve, them sort of problems. These are just some local information on in essence, Kirklees, England and Wales, and Rugby League strategies in terms of pitch use. I think we're minus 10 pitches in Kirklees, for instance. And I know Tong, so around Tong and Bailey area, which are really deprived areas who need community assets they can use for sports. So I know at the minute, the community assets in that area, because that area is through, in essence, is going through a bit of a journey in terms of having safe assets in that area. And just where around the corner, we can sort of help that area. And it was really interesting, last week we had 5 people from the Homewood and Bailey area become professional sports players, and they'd come through the route at Birkinshaw because in essence they've been able to travel 2 miles and come to a facility that they can use safely that isn't right next to some of their friends who are doing other things. Because the reality is, if you're in some of these estates, you can get dragged off into different things. crime, different areas, but East Bali being where it is, the kids have come across and have had a really good grounding, and some of these kids are so focused. You see the journey from being 10 years old to 16. You see the journey they make in terms of confidence, levels of behaviour, and it's like, can we open the facilities so we can do so much more? Got to what's the next one? Let me just give me a time check. Yeah, I'm still doing okay. The return, you know, I mean, I already spoke about the opportunities for volunteering. I think is huge. So for me, I spoke before. I do coaching international. A lot of that started with community involvement. It's been really, really interesting to see some of the young kids come through and add support to programs like Hungry Holidays. I've had kids who are 16-year-old go, "Look, can I volunteer and help out with your 7 or 8-year-olds who are doing the holiday thing?" I think beautiful. Come watch, come learn how you coach young kids. Come learn how the progress you can make, and you can develop your skills. And I think it's really, really important how you do that. And again, it brings a lot of disadvantaged kids with the holiday schemes we've run there through, I think, the Marcus Rashford scheme. And it's been really interesting to see the volunteering opportunities and the opportunities for different people to come to site and engage with it and understand that sports. And we do quite a lot of other stuff on site. Like, I'm really keen on other stuff being bolted on. I see sports as a gateway. So once we've got the attention of these kids, can we talk about goal setting? We've got 5-6-year-olds doing on video, setting goals for themselves. So I think it's really interesting once you get the trust a sports club can get. What else can you throw at them? What else can stick? So yeah, it's been really exciting, the potential. Yeah, and I think this is a good one just to sum up the journey and the vision of where we want to go to and how we want to get there. I think we touched on the changing rooms. We have a really awkward situation at the minute now, so my fault. I made sure we definitely had a girls' team, but the reality is we haven't got enough changing rooms for them. So I've got the awkward situation where I'm telling girls to come fully dressed for the game, whilst the boys can come in and get changed, but we haven't got enough change rooms. We don't want that awkward safeguarding issue where there's girls coming in and out. So we either have to tell the girls you have to reverse the fixture and play at somebody else's ground, which means you don't have girls playing on site, which is what we want. So one of the things we are getting is funding for additional changing rooms. And I joked to some of them that I'll be able to put a vanity mirror up and a couple of other things going on there, but we really just need changing rooms.
In Northern Ireland was over £5 million given to changing facilities for girls playing rugby union. So it's a huge challenge, not just in Kirklees but in every district, isn't it? So
Yeah, it's huge having the extra changing room facilities so that they do feel welcome. Because I've been really keen to make the women and girls as visible on site as possible, because it just changes everything. So from when we first started, we had 2 or 3 girls playing at the junior age. Once we got the under 14 started, we've now got 8 girls at under 8s, because they just see, all right, here's a site for girls and boys. So it's really important that they are on site and they do feel comfortable. So yeah, for me, I think it's a really interesting project, the East Baileigh, and for me, the engagement in inspiring developing communities through sports, I could talk about it all day, so I'll probably cut it out there. Thanks very much.
Well done, Bonham.
Thank you so much. Thank you, gents. And a couple of things. I've been to the site. It is fantastic, and the ambition for the community engagement is just phenomenal. A couple of things for me that please be aware of the Mayor's Community Safety Fund. We've upped the money from £6,000 to £8,000. This time round, we've £500,000 to spend from proceeds of crime that is going back into communities. So if you've got any projects that are about safety of women and girls, early intervention, and there is so much about creativity and sports that is early intervention, please do think about bidding into that pot. I know £8,000 isn't going to change the world, but it's a little bit of something. And your ambition to include women and kids with a disability is really important and something we want to achieve across all sectors. Any questions or any thoughts, comments? It's definitely worth a visit. If you're heading to Bradford, you can just pop in at East Baileigh and see the amazing facilities. Thank you all so much, fellas. Really helpful. Thank you. Okay, and talking of Bradford, let's move on to the next presentation from Bradford 2025, City of Culture.
So I'll start off. We've got a few slides, but I'm very aware of time, and the second slide is actually a video, We're leaving it here with you, so if you want to watch it in your own time, please do. So I'm going to bypass that slide. So you know the first logo, all of you have probably seen it. It's been plastered all over Bradford, and we've been shouting about it for about 3 years now to try and win that little thing that is known as a UK City of Culture. And there'll be a photo later which will demonstrate to you all exactly how we felt on that night, and I think it's probably mirrored across the West Yorkshire region. I think you all feel it with us. As part of developing the bid, we had to really look at what it was that we want to try and shift and change, and how we want to try and approach it in Bradford. So we came up with 4 themes. First theme, City of the World. I love telling people all over the country and the world, when I meet them, that Bradford used to be the richest city in the world. And I say Woolopolis, that immediately tells you who we were, who we are, and who we will be in the future as well. That hasn't changed, but the industry size and scale has shifted, which has had an impact on the city. I said my parents came to Bradford as a result of Woolopolis. We're now still here because of what the city gives us now and for the future. And that also is a reason for that theme as well, is the people and the communities who have made Bradford their home, who see their present and they see their future in it. So it's what we've given and what we are still going to give. Coming of age. We're the youngest city in the UK. 26% of 542,000 people in the district are under 18. You mentioned the Born in Bradford longitudinal study, the only one of its kind. 30,000 young people are being tracked from birth to adulthood about impact on their lives, their home, what they eat, where they go to school, access to creativity, access to sports. I absolutely love what you were just saying and what you talked about. Agree with everything that you said and the impact that it has on young people and communities. So our young people, the first cohort of those 30,000 young people turn 18 in 2025. Couldn't have timed it better. Absolutely couldn't have. And those young people are going to lead that theme. If we are saying that we are going to develop new routes into the cultural sector, we're going to give opportunity to those who have not had access to opportunity, we have to put our money, where our statements are, where our mouth is. So those young people are going to deliver that. But that coming of age is also for Bradford. All of us across West Yorkshire know that Bradford has been going, we're here, work with us. We've done so much. And actually now, the UK City of Culture team said, actually, we're going to give you this. So Bradford, what Bradford manages to achieve will also bring more attention, more leverage, more opportunity for the whole West Yorkshire region. So it isn't just a win for us, actually, it's a win for the region. But I'm also interested in creative ageing, because if I look at everybody around this room, there's not a single one of us who will think we've actually come of age properly yet. We're all still coming of age. So that idea for our young people to understand that when you're 18, you're not supposed to have solved everything. Because believe me, I'm still trying to solve things, and I know, that's why we're all here in this room today. So that kind of, our older generation working with our younger generation. Third theme, STEAM-powered, science, technology, engineering, arts and maths. How can you take the arts out of maths, engineering? Einstein didn't do that. Da Vinci didn't do that. How can you take it out? STEM-powered just doesn't sound the same as STEAM-powered, does it? You've got movement, you've got dynamism, you've got energy, you've got development, you've got, forward thinking. This is about our environment, it's about the world we live in, how we live, the way we choose to live, it's about sustainability, it's about everything. And the fourth one, we're a beautiful city, we are. We're 67% rural, we have so much beauty, but we also have to kind of own the fact that the interchange is not the most beautiful train station in the world. I'm very proud of it because, it's a gateway into the beauty of our city, but it's actually the ugliest train station, I would say. Susan Hinchcliffe might have words to say to me about that, but, I own it. But someone obviously felt exactly the same as I do. It's our that's our identity of who we are as Bradford. Somebody just went, what? I'm just going to welcome everybody into this city. Welcome home sexy. That little bit of graffiti, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen as you come into Bradford, where someone's saying, we're a bit cheeky. We've got a sense of humour. We know what we're dealing with. Come and play. It's our hospitality, it's our invitation, it's exactly who we are. This was to give you all a flavour of the approach that we are giving the UK City of Culture for 2025, the approach that we've got from the moment we were bidding to now in delivery phase, which is a very different phase. Can we have the next slide, please? So just to kind of give you an idea of what we're trying to do, and also just to let all our friends in this room know that as of this week, we are 100 weeks away. Next year, it'll be 99 weeks away from the 1st of January. I'm looking at Alan, who's kind of going, yeah, I'm just thinking back to the awakening. So 100 weeks away. That makes it real. That makes it really, really real. And this is just to give you a flavour of what to expect and what it is that we're trying to do. And I was at the DCMS staff conference yesterday, and I thought, you know what, it's going to be 500-600 people in the room. There's 900 people in the room and 800 online. The one thing to remember, and that I was really keen to say to our partners, DCMS, that UK City of Culture is always delivered in collaboration. When I think about the years of culture that we're having here in West Yorkshire, all the learning, all the research, I am not taking away from what Dan's going to say later, I promise. But it all works towards our UK City of Culture as well. Can I have the next slide, please? I'm going to hand over to Nick just to say a little bit. Runway. Some of you are probably going to be thinking, what on earth do you mean by that? It is literally that. It's the runway up to that moment to when we actually have the 1st of January 2025. So we're working very closely with our colleagues at the council.
Thanks, Shanaz. Yeah, I guess if we go back to that night in May where that announcement came, which was just so exciting for everybody that was there, and how it's televised across the One Show, it was just such a moment for Bradford and for the region to go, we've got this. You know, we were up against 23 other cities in the UK. That was I think it's the highest amount of other cities that have applied to be in the UK City of Culture competition before. So we were up against it, but that just goes to show what an incredible bid we put in. And just before I kind of sort of gone to the runway, it's to go back a little bit, because we started this process obviously a long time before the announcement came. So in 2019, we recognised there was a journey for us to go on, and there was things we needed to put in place, and we need to invest, and we need to shift, and we needed to change and think differently about where culture sits as part of Bradford and its place in the district, region, UK and international. So we developed a cultural strategy, Culture is Our Plan, which is our 10-year plan. And we always said, when we made the commitment to bid for City of Culture, we have a 10-year piece of work to do here. And if we win, it's going to be the rocket fuel in that 10-year cycle, and that sits in 2025. But if we don't, we're still on a trajectory. We're still going to work really hard to really make the most of the potential of the creative industries within Bradford. So it's been going on for a lot longer than just what you probably see in the front. So it's just to kind of let you know that. And as part of the kind of sort of process that you need to go through, you need to show in evidence that you're investing in your sector and you're developing your partnerships, and which we've done that really successfully. And with increased investment that's come through from whether it be the Arts Council, Heritage Lottery, with Channel 4, the Combined Authority helping us being able to bring the Channel 4 unit to Bradford. So we've been putting in these things all the way along. It's not just, it's all just going to land in 25. There's a runway piece that needs to happen. Then there's a delivery, and then obviously there's a legacy. So yeah, so we're working incredibly close together. We're hand in glove, aren't we? And and we've heard from other cities of culture that that's such an integral part of its success. And again, this is where we see actually there's a real regional opportunity here to kind of work between the deliveries, the city councils, and how we make the most of the stuff that we're doing over the next few years and how we're investing in the sector. So yeah, it's kind of, there's a lot to do. And like Shanaz says, the other thing we've got really up against us, we have got the shortest time frame of any other UK City of Culture that's ever been delivered. So yeah, no pressure, but the clock is definitely ticking. So yeah, a lot to do, incredibly ambitious. It's a moment, literally, the UK will be looking at Bradford, looking at the region, and hopefully so will the world. Up to you, Dan.
Great, thank you. If we'd have the next, we'll just skip the next one and do the next one as well. I don't have to tell it, I'm Dan Bates, I'm the Executive Director. I've just been in post for 6 weeks, so running fast kind of on this as well. But and I don't have to explain the value of culture, I think, to everyone here in the room, so I will save you that as well. But you know, for Bradford 2025, it's about an explosion of kind of cultural opportunities kind of across the district. We are a district-wide bid. We're not in the city centre. We are the biggest city of culture because we are across the district as well, and we just need to really retain that in our mind when we're talking about everything that we're talking about today. But it is about creating a generational shift in the kind of cultural opportunity for everyone in the district, especially our children and young people, which we've heard about kind of more than we've heard more and more about today as well. But also it's about community-based culture, so it's about big ticket events, international work, all that kind of aspect of City of Culture, which you all know, but it's also about community-based culture and creativity, supporting health and well-being across the district, and it also addressing some of the inequalities across the district as well. We are going to expand our kind of creative sector as well, and we've talked a lot about skills development as well, and it was really interesting to hear your facts about jobs and job creation as well. So we are here to create more work, more opportunities kind of across the city. We'll be doing that. We have a team at the moment of, it was 4, it's now 13, should be 40 around about May as well. So we are on a recruitment drive at the moment, absolutely, as we go through. And the last bit is actually about the kind of making Bradford the kind of cultural destination of choice as well. So it is about bringing life into the city centre, but also our neighbouring towns and villages, from the mills to the hills to the waterways and the roadways as well. So lots and lots of kind of different work, but you know, above all, it's about transforming Bradford's image that it is now, and its reputation as a thriving cultural destination kind of across the UK as well. We are expecting visitors from across the world, but from across the region as well, and that's really, really important. And the other thing, I talked about skills development. I also wanted to just mention as well the kind of rich data that we have with all the years of culture across Wakefield, Leeds, Kirklees and Calderdale, and then Bradford as well. We are going to have some incredibly rich data as well, and I really feel that Bradford 2025 can take a real lead and part of kind of examining that kind of data as well. And then the next slide, please, Ben. Just, you know all about this stuff. So I've talked about jobs, about 15.5 million visitors. It's like an eye test, this. And,
it's all about the image.
Let's focus on the image, really, as well, but the skills and training and the jobs that we talked about as well. But yeah, some big numbers in there as well, and we would kind of deliver that as well. Just before, I mean, one of the things that we haven't put on here is what is our budget as well. And this we might as well, because you're going to ask the question, so let's do it. Save some time as well. So our budget is in the region of anywhere between 35 and 40 million pounds as well. As the City of Culture, the designated City of Culture by the DCMS as well. So they help us kind of open doors kind of across the departments of kind of government as well. So we are obviously applying for funds from the Arts Council, from National Lottery Heritage Fund, from National Lottery Community Fund, kind of etc. The list goes on as well. So there's an ambitious plan to raise this money as well. And also we just thank Bradford Council as well for their incredible support as well. That's a incredible cross-party supported decision as well. So that's absolutely amazing as well. And we also have a large target for corporate and trust and foundations, which we are trying to bring home at the moment.
Can we have the last slide, please, Ben? Okay, so what we're doing in 2023, as Dan has said, we're a small team at the moment, but we are growing. We are growing as quickly and sensibly as we can, looking at what our needs are and looking at what we're trying to deliver. Programme of Research and Development, in the bid it was an indicative programme, we're trying to now grow that. We're working with our the artists based locally. There are kind of focus at what Nick was saying earlier about what we had to say, that we were trying to develop, what we're trying to do. And our strategy, our 10-year strategy, is also about developing our local sector, ensuring that they grow, not just within Bradford or within West Yorkshire, but also across the UK. We are working closely with the culture team for the Runway programme, confirming our partner and funder relationships, We've got recruitment in there for 4,000 volunteers. Our volunteer team actually all start next week, all 3 of them. We managed to recruit 2 volunteer leads and a volunteer coordinator. We did really well, I thought, in 1 round of recruitment. You'll be seeing all of this news becoming much more public knowledge, and our team, you will see, will be becoming more and more visible over the next few weeks. The thing that I was really pleased about, actually, when we started recruitment for our senior management team, I've been saying for years that the talent is there in Bradford. The opportunity to develop careers and progress careers in Bradford was not there. Actually, people have worked all over the north and live in Bradford, and they're now coming to work with us. So that was a big tick for me and a big moment to say, okay, instincts are right. So instincts are right, and keep kind of doing that. So we've come to the end of our presentation. We want to kind of make sure there's time for people to ask questions. And this will be the first of many meetings like this and conversations like this. I know it will.
Thank you all so much. It's so exciting, and certainly to have that in every meeting I go to be able to talk about our amazing years of culture culminating in Bradford City of Culture. One thing you raised about recruitment, really important for me, that this rolling programme of talent, if you're an intern in Leeds 2023, you will have the chance then through this programme of different festivals to get experience, so that you will become a producer at Leeds Bradford 2025. So I wonder, in the first instance, how people feel about having their emails. I'm sure we all share emails anyway, don't we? But if we could all share recruitment calls, job opportunities, because we all know people, and we can then cascade them down. So of course we want talented people to come and join us, but we don't want them necessarily always from outside the region, from London, saying, oh, this is my great chance to relocate and have a better quality of life in Bradford, which is all fantastic, but we don't want that. If there's talent in Leeds or there's talent in Wakefield, it would be great to be able to share those opportunities for recruitment. And that goes for all projects that are scaling up or looking for people. If we can share it amongst each other, maybe it would make sense to share with Phil, and then we can disseminate it, make it easier for everybody. Thank you. We're going to be talking a lot about festivals, aren't we, going forward? Are there any thoughts or questions or comments from our colleagues? Jenny, then Halima.
Yeah. Beg your pardon. That was really great. I'm Jenny from Calderdale. Obviously, we've got our Year of Culture next year, but starting later on in the summer, all being well. And I'd love to come and talk to you a bit more about the connectivity, because obviously, we border. We've got aspirations to be doing things in every single one of our 17 areas in Calderdale, some of which are bordering right up against Bradford. So I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to ensure that, that the people that are just over the road from Shelf and everything, and Queensbury and so on, are sharing a lot of stuff there. So I'd love to talk to you about it, but well done and all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, Halima, then Sarah.
So 2 questions. One, I'm going to say from a work capacity, and one as a resident. So I live in Bradford. So the work one, you've talked quite a lot on there, and I'm hoping it's in the plans, but not to leave sport out, because I've seen it myself. When there's lots of cultural events going on, sport does get left out a bit. There's 3 people here that I'm aware of, Nigel, Baloo and myself, who work in the sports industry, so that's just a consideration. As a resident, and you may have answered it a little bit, is how many people actually know about Bradford City of Culture? Because I only know through my work, but when I talk to a lot of residents and people in Bradford and some of the groups that I work with, some people didn't even know that we got City of Culture. So it's just an observation as a resident is, we've got 2 years, let's try and get that campaign out as widely as possible.
Thank you, Shanaz.
Thank you, Halima. First of all, we are actually, some of our sponsors are the larger kind of sports organisations in Bradford. So we're talking to them about how we can work with them, and also there's a couple of ideas. Obviously a lot of the ideas are in development at the moment, so I can't talk about them, but there are a couple of ideas where we're actually looking at activity in sports. So, and it is looking at it from an arts perspective, but seeing how the two can work together. And what you say about who hears it, knowing whether we'd won or not. The team, because I was the chair of the bid. The bid team did do a series of roadshows throughout the district, and they went to the town centres, they went to community centres, and I think that kind of message of having won, if you haven't heard it, we have to just get better at making sure that people hear it. We are, as Dan said, he's in week 6, and I'm in just starting week 13 now. So that's one of our focus, and our head of audiences, when we did our recruitment, we have ensured that all of our senior team are very clear that we are bringing the district. It's a district-wide bid. It's not just a city-wide bid. So that's a big piece of work, and I'm really glad that you've highlighted it today for us to make sure it's still there very much at our forefront.
Thank you, Shanaz. Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, team. As you know, my passion knows no bounds with this, Shanaz, Nick and hi, Dan. This is a fantastic opportunity, not only for Bradford District, but actually the surrounding authorities as well. We've got a lot of shared learning that we can pass around in this room and out into our communities, because actually it's all about people, progress, passion, power, and it's all the opportunities that this will bring, and not only in the creative arts, but actually in the supporting roles as well. And I think that's very important, that the job opportunities, because performing arts, creative arts all need that support network behind them. So if you're an actress, you need someone to do your makeup and your hair, you need seamstresses to make your costumes, and actually I think all this links into very much some of what Peter was talking about earlier on, about the opportunities for employment. It's also the expanded outside the creative. So we all want food, we want drinks when we go to events and shows, and it's much, much bigger than I think any of us can realise, because we do need all those supporting mechanisms, hotels, etc. And that is both in the district and outside the district. So big job, very proud, great for Bradford District, great for Yorkshire and West Yorkshire in particular. So thank you, partners, because I know we've had a heck of a lot of support around this table, and it's very much appreciated. And we've got a great team that's going to do all our residents proud. So thank you.
Very good.
Thanks so much for that. And also just to remind everybody on the committee that we now have a bit more wiggle room around skills. 30% of our skills budget we now can control. So if there is a bid for a particular skill set, please do reach out to us, and we might be able to help with a skills boot camp or something along those lines, because it's really important that with this wave of festivals that we have the skilled workforce as well that is ready to rumble, and that maybe there's a way for you to get support from us in that way. Okie doke, any further thoughts? Well, just thank you, Bradford. And honestly, the next time we see you, you'll look 10 years older, but you'll be delivering more. And Alan and Leeds 2023 and Kirklees Year of Music will attest to that probably. It's a big job, but heroes do it. Bolu.
Just have a quick one. Obviously, just to echo the sports part, I think sports is really interesting when it comes to culture, because at sporting events, when we are discussing it, you can get sports in there, you can get heritage, you can get culture, you can get arts, you can get food. It's really, really interesting to get an event where you get sports where you just open up everything in one place and it's all there and visible. So I think it's always really, it just echoes what's going on, where you can have all that in one place. So yeah, go big and loud, especially if you're going to involve sports, because it just brings it all in. Thanks very much and good luck.
Thanks so much. And we saw with the Commonwealth Games that the games and then their cultural offer, it helped all families gather together, because all tastes and interests were catered for. So thank you for that feedback, colleagues. If everybody's happy to move on, we're going to move on to the West Yorkshire Plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, and Joe Barham has been leading on this piece of work and to develop the West Yorkshire Plan, setting out our narrative for the whole region. I know that you were sent it to add your creative flair. And for those who have fed in, thank you so much for that. Really important for our partners to speak with that one strong, clear voice and set the trajectory for the longer term up to 2024 and continue to develop the shared endeavour between the combined authority, of course, and the local authorities. So thank you for that. So I'll leave this over to Jo to take away.
Thank you, Chair. I'm mindful of time, so I'm just going to pick out a couple of things from the paper and then open up for any feedback from the group. So just to say that the appendix that's been circulated is a draft. It's not there yet, so we really would welcome feedback and comments. We've been going around to all the committees and various groups here at the Combined Authority and have had some really good constructive feedback, so look forward to getting further comments. If there's not lots of time today, happy to sort of follow up by email and things afterwards. The other thing to say is, so it is a regional document to clearly articulate shared vision, story and ambition for West Yorkshire. And just to say that it is going to act as an umbrella for all of our existing policies and strategies that we have. And those policies and strategies will really provide the detail of how we want to achieve the aims and the ambitions that we set out in the West Yorkshire Plan. And when the plan narrative is agreed, that will be a separate document, but we're going to have a web page that will include all of our other policies and strategies, and the cultural framework that this group has been very involved in developing will be part of that web page. So I think I'll leave it there to allow time for comments and happy to take any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. And part of this was the challenge of going from 5 local authorities into one MCA. And we all need to talk with the same voice. So when Shabir Pandor talks to leaders or to government, he talks about a West Yorkshire vision, whilst also having a Kirklees vision. What is our vision for 2040 for West Yorkshire? Who were we? Who are we? Who do we want to be? And for those who haven't fed in, please do have a little read. And any thoughts, feedback to Jo, because it's gone to all the committees. It's having to be co-produced because I want everybody to have the buy-in. It's got quite I did a pass on one of the sections, and it does feel very culture focused, which is no bad thing. So if you want to beef up that extra culture identity as well, going forward, you know, about us as a region, what is the elevator pitch about West Yorkshire? What's our, you know, swagger? What's our history telling us in the way that Manchester, for example, the home of the suffragettes, what were we that actually gives us our DNA? And how can we collectively, because we are so disparate, we don't have that London or Manchester central city that everybody pours into. We are 5 different regions with our own identity. How do we draw that together under an umbrella? It is a challenge, but I know we can do it because we are Yorkshire, and Yorkshire has its own identity, and trying to then disseminate what is West Yorkshire is tricky, but what are we? How can we sell ourselves internationally? So going to India, for example, talking about West Yorkshire, who are we? What are we? Centre, you know, the heart of the north, the creative cap crucible, all of these phrases. You're all creatives, you can help me out. If you just have time when you're on the bus or whatever, to have a read through and see if there's anything, a couple of one-liners that you think are missing that could be helpful for the front page and so on. So thank you so much, Jo. Any thoughts from people who've maybe had time to have a look? No? Thank you. So if you wouldn't mind... No, thank you. If you wouldn't mind having a quick scan, I'd be hugely grateful, because of all the committees, this is definitely the committee that can sell a document and sell an idea about a vision of who we are. So thank you so much, Jo. Hopefully people will get in touch with you separately. Moving on to item 10, to our skills and business support delivery. So I'm going to hand over to Jim, who's going to talk through the development of the culture, heritage and sport skills and business support delivery plan. So this is a really early chance for us to input into the development based on the interventions described in themes 3 and 4 of the culture framework. And Jim's going to talk to it, but I think it's really good to know that 5 identifiable interventions: freelancer and micro business support, year of culture knowledge transfer, as I've spoken about before, the creative catalyst, which is also about export, Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, which has been hugely successful, and the sport and heritage support. So over to you, Jim.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this quite brief to save everyone time, and also because I've talked to lots of people on this committee about this as we've been working up the idea, and I'll certainly talk to more of you over the coming weeks as well. As you say, this is a skills and business support plan. It responds to A, the consultation we did around the framework over summer and the findings from that, which were pretty clear. B, kind of sector research that we sort of monitor continuously. And C, some of the sort of more personal conversations we've had with members of this committee and parts of the sector about what the needs are. And with a mind to what our intervention should be as a combined authority. So obviously there are certain places where it's more appropriate for us to intervene than others, so where we can see region-wide additionality to what we can help with. So essentially we're putting together a high-level business case for interventions that will look at certain market failures where we can help across the region. So first one, supporting freelancers and micro business in the creative industries to grow and sustain. This is something that's come through loud and clear. We know that over 50% of people, the workforce in the creative industries in West Yorkshire are freelancers or micro businesses. Cost of living crisis and COVID affected that workforce with people leaving, and it also had a harder impact on women and girls, so there's an equality issue around that as well. We know that there are networks of freelancers in each local authorities, and we've been talking to culture leads there about it. So we want to work sympathetically with what they're doing to help with the business support offer, and also increase capacity in those networks so they can bring in graduates from our universities, higher education institutes into their networks, and we can use them to deliver some support. Another key thing that we've heard through consultation is that often our kind of bespoke business support, certainly on its own, doesn't really work. It doesn't really feel tailored to the creative industries. So what we want to do is look at a modular approach where we can use some resources that are already funded through other programmes, so Enterprise West Yorkshire being a West Yorkshire Combined Authority programme, and actually build some modules around it to make it much more relevant to the creative industries and get the best value out of it. So that's a key one around freelancers and micro businesses. We're continuing those conversations with local authority colleagues and with people in this room who work in the creative industries too. So secondly, I should say the market failure, the golden thread running through all this is around increasing the diversity of the creative industries workforce. We know that it's not diverse compared to other sectors, and it's somewhere where we think we can really make impact and move the dial. A fun example is across the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, which has had it's absolutely smashed its results in terms of making that screen workforce more diverse, and we think we can take that approach to other areas of the sector with really ambitious targets, and the way that we work with different communities to bring them through. We also want to enable knowledge transfer and career development opportunities across the year of culture activities. So the Bradford team, it's a shame they're not in the room, but what we want to do is work with them very sympathetically. They're at capacity trying to deliver this at high stress under a lot of pressure. So we want to actually make it as easy as possible to facilitate some of that knowledge transfer by essentially buying in facilitation and also the talent exchange escalation between them. So that would be something that we would probably go out to procurement with and bring someone in to facilitate that in a slightly more structured way, so we can make sure that the opportunities aren't being lost, while also looking at the models that they're already working up about knowledge transfer. Lastly, we want to increase the sustainability and resilience of sports and heritage organisations as well. So we're modelling in our kind of preferred option for this, Do More, which is around a pilot for asset owning sports and heritage clubs. And this would look at business support with modules on governance, business planning, revenue diversification, fundraising, volunteer management, EDI and safeguarding. So this is following conversations we've had with Yorkshire Sport Foundation and Historic England and Heritage Lottery Fund and others, and we will continue those conversations to try and make that work and best meet the needs of the sector. Lastly, I just want to say that we aim to continue to fund Creative Catalyst. That has mostly been based around the screen sector in the past, but we're looking at broadening that out to include more creative industries. That will most likely have an export strand, looking at different models of IP export, and also a mentoring strand to it as well. And we will be looking to continue the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, which, as I said, has had such success in having an impact on young people's skills and careers in the sector. So I'll leave it there. Open for comment. Oh, just to say, so we submitted what's called a strategic assessment, which is the kind of first level, sort of top level part of our assurance process, and it just says this is why we want to do this. This is the evidence of the market failure, and we had that meeting this morning. It seems we've got it right. Haven't had the official feedback, so it's in train at a very, very high level. But there's lots to play for in terms of developing the business plan, having those conversations about what the delivery is going to look like and make sure that it works for everyone when it lands. Thank you.
Thanks. Jim, do you have a time frame for delivery on these projects?
We want to get going with some as soon as possible, so summer this year, although the majority will be kind of staggered. So we're not going to be, for capacity reasons, as much as anything else. Some stuff's going to be starting in September this year and some stuff a bit later on. This is assuming it goes through assurance and gets approval.
Thanks, Phil.
Just to add to what Jim said, we are kind of also utilising our kind of wider business support and skills offer towards the culture sector in a way more so than we have done before. So, for example, we're exploring some activity using our Skills Connect funding around support for areas around Bradford 2025 and NAED and production. So this is on top of our kind of generic offer, which also will benefit the sector as well.
Thank you. What's important to me is, as Jim mentioned, is where we're intervening in the whole of this landscape. That I know, you all know, that these great jobs aren't always available to everyone. And the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, with 43%, correct me if I'm wrong, Caroline, 43% would declare of the participants of this round would say they had a disability, and 50% went into jobs in film and TV. I mean, they are quite amazing statistics, and just think of the additional value of the other 50% that didn't go into jobs in TV and film. They may have gone into other jobs but used those skills. So that is quite an intervention that is delivering on the ground. So we want to continue that good work, reaching those youngsters and those mid-careers, those returners, to make sure that they have access to this amazing sector, sports, heritage and culture. So are we all minded? Any thoughts before we agree? Yes, Caroline, and then Jenny.
I was just interested in the note about bridging graduates into the network, and just wanted to flag that Screen Yorkshire has an initiative called Connected Campus, which has 10 university members and 10 college members from across Yorkshire. It's a subscription model, so it doesn't cost any, I mean, it costs the universities and colleges something, but it doesn't cost us anything, and we don't need to come to you for support for that programme. It's been incredibly successful. DCMS are now in touch with us, talking about how it might be rolled out for different industries. The principle of it is basically we connect industry with the academics. We take industry specialists into the universities and colleges, and they deliver sessions, and we also facilitate dialogue between industry and those institutions about curriculum development, about placement. So it's I think it's a really interesting model that we could look at for other creative sectors, and obviously DCMS are already doing that. But why don't we look at doing that here in West Yorkshire first before DCMS grabs it and tries to roll it out for the whole of the UK? And I'd be really, really happy to have conversations with anyone in this room about how that works.
Great, because we know there's lots of talent in our universities that don't necessarily get to be connected with businesses and smaller companies, etc.
And interestingly, on the diversity front, there is a lot of appetite from industry when we opened it up to the colleges as well, because I think that really, they feel that gives them access to a much more diverse range of possible recruitment opportunities.
Great stuff, and I meet the vice chancellors and FE leads as well, so it's something maybe we can draw together. So Jenny and then Amy.
Yeah, just very quickly, just to say, Jim, I think it sounds really good. And thinking about it from a Calderdale perspective, every single one of these 5 elements that you've described in the paper, I can imagine us really wanting to be engaged with. The freelance and micro business support. I mean, we've got our Calderdale Creates network chaired by Laurie from Northern Broadsides. That's exactly the sort of thing that they'd be into. I think the Year of Culture knowledge transfer we're certainly interested in. And the final one, the sports and heritage support and everything, it was brilliant hearing Vola's presentation earlier on. But I mean, I'm just thinking about one of the projects that we're really excited about in Calderdale is very small. It's our Hepton Stall Museum that's being taken over by a really brilliant group that really want to do lots and lots of stuff. It's exactly the sort of thing that the sort of project that would welcome support from that section E that you've got in the report. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Just on freelancers, Nat, who was on our committee, is now at the Armouries, has suggested that we have a creative symposium of all the creatives in West Yorkshire in the Armouries. And I just thought, what a brilliant idea that is, to bring the creatives who are often very lonely because they're freelancers together to maybe into workshops and so on. So it's something that we are looking into as well, about the powers of convening, not just necessarily investing in. Amy.
I just wanted to add, when we were talking about graduate and graduate opportunities, coming from someone who graduated during the pandemic, and I think there might have been a year after me as well, a lot of the opportunities that would have been available to us during that period of time we were graduating, they were stripped from us and we didn't have those. And now my age bracket is out of the bracket that you can apply for these opportunities for. So I feel like myself and the ones below are really suffering from that, on top of missing out on our third years or the education that we paid for as well. So I think when we're building and making these opportunities, if we could just maybe put a bit of thought around what age bracket or the reason why there's certain caps on things, and try and consider those years that have been missed.
Thank you, Amy. That's why I've always said young people is under 30, because I know that so many people may have missed out, they try again or missed out, and then COVID. So I get it. And my youngest was at Mount View doing her MA during COVID, and it's hell. And all her cohort, really bad starts, agents, all of that, the things that you take for granted are now missing. So appreciate that.
Yeah, hi. I was really grateful last time that Tracy and Jim, you asked me to talk about support for the music sector in this meeting. And we've talked a lot about, I've talked to Jim about this support and the freelance. It's undeniable what impact this is going to have, but I can't help think that there is a little bit of a gap in terms of how it supports the sectors to grow within it, especially taking the importance of freelancers, but how does sort of the opportunities for them on top come within it as well? And I wonder if there's something within this, you're talking about kind of delegating the responsibilities down to local authorities, and you've talked before about those networks that exist in those places, about how, and the modular basis of it, about how that can connect effectively, so that as well as providing support through all these 5 interventions, there's also that strategic approach to kind of level them up, and that will be different sector by sector. That's part of the point, and whether it's music or sport or whatever. Sorry, and this slightly second thing is, it's the first time in this meeting in these meetings I think I've heard Skills Connect mentioned, and I just wonder if it might be beneficial in the future to connect that a little bit more with what Creative Catalyst's doing, because I know I've talked to Francis about the sort of looking for new skills, and it feels like there's a massive opportunity within this group and other partners to find. It sounds like some great work going on, and it might be, it could be really great to share more.
I think as well, Sam, I've just been, as people were speaking, thinking there's so much knowledge around this committee that because of the packed agenda, we often don't have time for people to share knowledge. So I think a takeaway from any other business, even before we've got to it, is that we could do with a gathering, Alan. We can potentially do with just coming together in a non-committee way, just to share knowledge and to hear from you what you think we should be doing next as well, given the current landscape, the cost of living, etc., etc. So a bit of knowledge transfer would be something that we could bear in mind going forward. Alan, you wanted to come in.
Yes, every time we hear about the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, I'm always struck by how good it is. And the numbers every time and I suppose my question, it's going to sound loaded, and it isn't loaded, I'm not implying anything, but in A, we're looking at freelancer and micro business support, and that's being achieved by making grants to local authorities to build their capacity in the existing freelance network. And I suppose my question is, do we have any data, or do we have feeling about how well those networks deliver that work when we have the Mayor's, as an example, just as the Mayor's Screen Diversity Programme, it seems to be just smashing it left, right and centre, and I've never heard that this other thing, which is about to be funded, has ever achieved in that way. And it might be because I haven't understood it, or it might be that it doesn't, in which case we might go, how we've got this really great intervention here and a less successful intervention. I'm not implying anything. The other thing is, in 20 years in the city, I've never come across any of that. So that could be a failing in me, but it could be identifying something that we might want to look at.
Alan, dead right, and actually it's to Whisker's point, that there are people in our community that know the sector better sometimes, no disrespect to local authority colleagues, but would potentially know the sector better in more detail about where the interventions are best spent to get the most trust as well. That I think if you're a practitioner, you're probably more trusted than if you're a local authority colleague. And it's no disrespect to the work, but I know how busy councillors are and so on. And, I don't necessarily go to gigs. And if somebody said to me, well, here's, 20 grand to spend on musicians, I wouldn't know where to start. So I think that is a really good and very positive challenge. Thank you. So Nathan, and then we go over to the...
Sorry, it was just one thing on the do more option. And in there, and it's in a language, and I don't know if I'm confused or anything, but it seems to be structured, and it says including CITs and not-for-profits. Does that include profit making? Because when I look at a lot of sports clubs that are, particularly football or whatever, that are profit making and could do with best practice, governance and other kind of modules, what you're proposing here is a lot of things that need to be done. And I think we as a culture committee need to think outside of just what is not-for-profits and CICs. I think we need to think about what the base structure is, and particularly now, I think there's a huge area that we should be upskilling organisations in our region, not just these, and I think we need to focus some of this or make these modules open for them, and can we let them know about it so that we can upskill our region, not just that specific area. So I think, can we do some work around the language? Can we make it more open? And can we make it for our region, not just for that area?
That's really, really helpful. And would you be talking about music venues and so on? Or
I'm talking
producers?
about any. It was specific around sports, and what brought it onto it is I look at certain football clubs that were not set up in a not-for-profit way or a CIC way or typical way, that were owned by an owner 100 years ago, that are still going. It might be something like Yorkshire Amateurs up in Chapelton or somewhere like that, that just need some way on business guidance in a modern way and have structured and gone on. I think there's a huge gap there, and if we take that across to the whole of the culture sector, there's areas that if we lose commercial organisations, whether it is in music, arts, theatre or any others, because we haven't given it and we have the skill set and we have the options here within this room to either deliver it, then we are at a failure, and that would be a failure of this committee in this area. And I think we need to do that and not concentrate so much just on CICs, not-for-profits and those. I think we have a duty to to represent everyone in our region.
Can I just echo that if you're not aware, Leeds City Council is looking at reviewing how it funds cultural organisations, and that's pretty much exactly the argument I've been making in that as well, that it has to be about the activity, not the organisation.
Thank you, Jim.
Just to respond, actually, I think it's maybe that Nathan, you're right, but actually it's the wording that's confusing. Part of the reason that is in there is because as an organisation we're used to funding commercial organisations, so the wording is in there to draw attention as it sort of makes its way and is socialised with colleagues, that it is including not-for-profits as well as profit-making. So I think I need to amend that to make it a bit more clear about what the scope is.
Sorry, I think it just alerts that I wouldn't know if I were looking at that on our sports or heritage, I wouldn't know if it was for me. And therefore, a small bit of language may be how it goes.
Thank you, Vika.
I wanted to build on what Alan said about a quick and dirty call, maybe among this committee or beyond, about where some of that good practice is in supporting freelancers and networks that exist, because I know of some that do really work, and then they could be together forming that picture.
Absolutely, to my point that we've got loads of smarts around the table, and I think we don't often, because of the time frame of the committee, get chance to really unpick face to face where we can use that local knowledge. So all good. Yes, Alan.
Well, just should we have a barbecue? I'm very happy to take on the responsibility of organising a barbecue for vegetarian and non-vegetarian people, and we could have a beer, and it could be not in one of these rooms, and we could talk without pressing the button.
Yes.
It can be. I'm happy to take. I'm happy to take that. If that's useful, I can liaise with Phil or whoever's appropriate to come up with some time.
I love a cold weather barbecue. Let's do it. And by then it won't be dry Jan, so I can actually have a beer. So thank you, Alan, for taking on that mantle and for sharing your brilliance when it comes to barbecues. So we're all happy to just accept what we've just heard from Jim. Thank you, Jim, for putting that together. So let's move on to item 11, project approvals. The purpose of this report is to present one scheme for approval for funding, just to go through the progress during the assurance process. And Phil, I think you're going to be leading on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an item, in fact, a historic moment, because it's the first time this committee has directly approved funding rather than recommended it to the combined authority. So the combined authority meetings delegated this decision to this committee.
Yay!
So historic moment. So what this is about Leeds 2023, an activity we are funding as the combined authority around Leeds 2023. And specifically the Jude Kelly Women of the World Wow Barn activity that's going to be in Cindermore in May. The papers outlines the benefits and some of the risks of the programme, but basically it's already in train and we've already funded it, so given some funding to it. It's delivering it. The whole purpose of it is to encourage, promote women, girls, non-binary individuals to be interested in construction, to own and build and design a barn and raise a barn. But there's a whole load of training activity, engagement activity around that co-design. I think it's a unique, bold and is going to be really, really visible programme. And thinking about the link to sports as well. So it's happening at the same time as UK Reef in May. Which is a big property thing, but it's also happening at the same time as the Leeds Marathon, the inaugural of this kind, and some of us are running that. At least two of us that I know of, maybe more. And we're going to have some integration activity with sport as well with this event, I think, as well. So what we're recommending is that we approve here funding of, this is a very specific number, my screen's just gone, £948,328, which will bring our total funding up to £1.5 million for Leeds 2023. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And just for context, for those that don't know what the project is or can't visualise it, if you saw the film Witness, what was it called? The Amish film.
I think it is. Yeah, it is what it is.
Where halfway through the film there is a barn raising in a day, There is a programme of interventions with women in construction, handing down their skills on carpentry in young girls across the region, who will all contribute something towards the barn that then will be raised in the day, and then there will be events over a period of time in this barn, and then we are hoping, with a fair wind, that the sculpture park might take it to then be in the sculpture park and potentially as an artifact of interest, and maybe as a dry space for children going to the sculpture park. So we're trying to get all bang for our buck. And as I've said to everybody that has got money from the committee, your idea must impact on as many people across the whole of West Yorkshire. I know it's years of culture, but if we are funding from this committee, it has to have impact across West Yorkshire. And certainly we've got the only College of Construction in the country. We've got the first ever woman CEO of that college. And I'm hoping that trying to get more young girls to think about construction and carpentry, in particular being chippies and creatives, will also be a long-lasting legacy from this. So I think with the stewardship of Jude Kelly, some of you will know that she was the director of the Playhouse for many years, put the Playhouse and Leeds firmly on the cultural map, now runs Women of the World events on the South Bank to great acclaim globally. So I'm very excited that she's curating it. And I hope that the committee can support this funding bid. Any thoughts from anyone? Yes, Jenny.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And I, yeah, like you, I'm a big fan of the WOW stuff. I think it's really great. I guess you won't be surprised to hear me say that, you know, as somebody who's going to be putting in a bid for support from this committee for our own year of culture in 2024, I just want some assurance that actually I'd like to get some sense that funding this is not actually going to adversely impact on stuff that's coming down the track. In other words, if you were able, and I don't think I had looked through the papers and I can't actually see it, I'd like to know that that we're not having a situation where to them that hath shall be given, really, in terms of lead. The second thing I wanted to know is the barn when it's up, which is fantastic, which will be fantastic. Who does it belong to, and who looks after it, and how does it connect out to the people of Wakefield, the people of Calderdale, and so on. I mean, here in Calderdale, we've got form on this. You know, we've got one of the earliest small businesses that delivers straw buildings, in fact, and they've been around for the last 15, 20 years. So we're kind of interested. We've got a bit of a track record of women in construction as well. I haven't heard of this. I hadn't heard before reading this paper. I hadn't heard about this, and I don't think that if it's meant to be regional wide, I don't think we in Calderdale knew very much about it. So just a couple of points there. I hope you can give me some reassurance. Thanks.
Thank you, Jenny. And of course, we're just signing off the money, so there is no surprise really that you might not have heard about it. But I'm hoping that, and the expectation is, because of the really clear guidance from us, that there will be the outreach work, that you will start to hear about it. But also to reassure colleagues, and certainly Bradford would have something to say about this as well, because they're 2025. This is not a rush to the door. It is not about, quickly scoop up all the money before it all goes. This is about each individual project. What is the value to West Yorkshire? What do we think the outreach is? Is it value for money for the people, taxpayers? Every project is different. There is no ring-fenced pot of money for anybody, actually. Yes. It is about what your project says, what your project delivers. And I think as a committee, we are hoping that there's not a sort of end to the pot of money, that we will be going into a new period for the mayor come 2024. You know, there's teaming and ladling going on, as you can imagine, dependent on the quality and the reach of projects. So, who wanted to come in? Yeah, Fika. Thank you. And it has been mentioned at these committees, so maybe you missed the committees. We have spoken about it before. But I do get your point.
I'm talking about people. Not me.
Absolutely,
Exactly
yes.
the point that my colleague here from
Perfect. Thank you for that contribution. It's really valued. So Alan, then Nathan, and then Bolu.
Just to say that, I mean, obviously this is brilliant, and I've heard you speak passionately about it before. The thing that I get really excited about is that this region has not been very good at bringing back its great daughters and sons, and there's a real opportunity with your year of culture and with Kirklees and with Bradford and with Leeds to bring Jude Kelly back with all that she's achieved and do something meaningful and to really commit to it is something that traditionally this region has, for good reasons and bad, gone, we're not a part of that. And to have someone of her international standing come back and for us as a culture sector, you know, this is my art form, I think that's fantastic because it is like having whatever the most amazing rugby player you can think of, who 20 years ago played for Leeds and has just, you know, like that doesn't happen very often here, and that's just worth noting that makes us all taller and more. That now is something we can do, and that's really exciting.
Thank you, Ellen, and I hope that this is just the beginning because we will be placing ourselves at the centre of the UK as the place to go for culture, heritage and sport. You will get a warm welcome coming back with all your skills and all your connections. And just to say, when you bring people to the region who have got skin in the game, in the way that with Batley and Spen Youth Theatre, people from London who wanted the musical director of Hamilton coming to Batley to run workshops with young people with the Songbook of Hamilton because they cared about our community after the murder of Joe Cox. People caring. 9 young people got into the National Youth Theatre because of the people they met in that programme. Bringing in talent from outside is no bad thing, but bringing in homegrown talent that come back because they know this is where they need to be, because this is where it's all happening, is only something we could be proud of and to celebrate. So, Nathan.
It was about the legacy side of it, 4.23, where there's no confirmation of anything, and you alluded to Yorkshire Sculpture Park, and obviously, is this at the point now, how recent is this document? When was it written, or has there been anything updated since that? And if there has, what can we ask of the artist and their intellectual property for things like you talk about? Can we reuse it at other city codes? Can we take it? So how can we do that, and where are we up to with it?
That's a great challenge. Thank you, Nathan. Jim.
So the conversations are ongoing. The chair was at Yorkshire Sculpture Park recently talking about it, and they're really positive about the use for that. And at the same time, the conversation around IP we're having with Leeds. So the contract's not signed yet, so we can put IP provisions in there. There are lots of different artists involved because there's Jude, and then there are people preparing the panel. So like women and girls from community groups and schools are designing 60 centimetre by 60 centimetre panels each to go on the outside of the barn. So there's quite a lot of like working through that everyone has to sort of agree to their IP just to make sure that that's sort of worked through. But it's looking really positive, and I think it's likely to happen is the best that I can say. But there's nothing in terms of a contract or MOU or anything that we got at the moment. But I also think if it didn't go to the Sculpture Park, I think there are some other places as well that it could go to. So as long as the IP thing is right from the lead side, then I would feel fairly confident that we could get it somewhere. That way, we want it to be in good use as well, like community use.
I think that's.
And I think, Nathan, if I may as well, I think the legacy is that young girls have an interest in carpentry. They will have held a hammer and a chisel for the first time potentially, and that then we'll see an opportunity to go into a sector that they wouldn't normally, and whether we will be making sure that there is a legacy, and whether that's a skills course for youngsters to continue in woodworking, etc. Be reassured, this doesn't end at the end of the project.
I think it was the opportunity to revisit it and like you talk about, could those people spread the word and bring their sisters, brothers, cousins, everything across the region. I think that's the only thing in the project that I feel we need to have some form of guarantee or something in there that what we are investing in will have something else post it.
Thank you, Jim.
Just draw out a couple of things that are, in a way, perhaps not as evident as they might be. And I think it's because it's centred around building a barn, which is the catchy, sort of newsworthy side of it, but actually there's a whole lot more around that in terms of what it's delivering. So it's a big festival on a site. It's not just the barn. There's lots of other kind of tents and stalls, and it's a performance venue on Cinder Moor, and the whole site is going to be sort of fenced off for this festival that's going to be there for 2 weeks. So it's quite a substantial undertaking. And the other thing is, of course, it's not just about construction either, because it's about women and girls' rights. It's about women and girls getting together and programming their own events, having talks, bringing in high-profile speakers to this space that they've created. So there's quite a lot of work behind that. And the other thing about this is this sort of it's one of the main strands of Leeds 23. So our funding of it, of course, contributes to Leeds 23 beyond this project in terms of the staff time and the whole team that are working on that programme as well.
And if I just may say as well, as part of it, there's a Wowser project, which is about working with young teenage girls and young women to find their voice and to be part of this, to help co-create it. So as I say to my assurance colleagues in the Combined Authority, it's really difficult to talk about culture and value for money and legacy and all of that, because they're used to building bridges and roads, and they can see that this money becomes a thing. It is always difficult for us to talk about legacy. We know what the Bradford 2025 legacy is going to be, but you can't necessarily pin it down that one youngster went to a thing that changed their life because they thought they could be a singer. Suddenly they saw somebody that looked like them. They could be. I mean, you get it. We all get it in this room, don't we? And it's been a challenge for the assurance process to get more of a light touch on all of these years of culture. It's asking a lot of our colleagues to really understand how culture can change lives, but I think we've done a good job here, and congratulations to our team as well to get them to be bought into it. Whiskers and then Bolu.
Sorry, Bolu, I think I jumped in there. I mean, just to say, I think there's got to be a middle ground, because there isn't enough in here, I think, for me, to feel comfortable. We're asked all these questions are born out of the fact that this isn't here. Jim, you just explained more about the project because it's not in here, and the comments around engagement and inspiring young girls. Well, there's one line around engagement. Where's the confidence in?
I got sent a private pack, and there is
I have more.
That has everything in it. So I moved quite a bit on the back of it.
If Nathan got it, then
I think that needs to be showed around. Yeah. I mean, I've got pages and pages of the documents behind it. It's not that. It's the 2023 Women in the World, the whole area and pack of it. That I.
Well, it's come from someone else. It's
come direct from 2023.
It's come from 2023.
Someone at 2023.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna. But the project is great.
But also, you were at the 100-day announcement with me, and that information was there. So it's not that it's not secret. It's just that you were at the 100-day announcement, and that information, and it was in the newspaper. So it's just that, like, all of us, are we across the? I wouldn't know anything about this except I just spent 3 months in their office. If I hadn't, I wouldn't know anything about this because I don't go there. So, but the point is, they're not talking to us, are they? That's not their job. Their job is to talk to the women of Leeds, and if they do that well, then they'll succeed. But whether Nathan and I paid any attention at the 100-day announcement is not successful.
What I mean is, there's a whole schedule there.
Yeah.
And there's a whole raft of it, and I think that needs to be shared with the committee.
So we will share that.
The value of the project that we're being asked to do, and I think that's what comes back to it.
Where's the confidence in the engagement and things like that?
And also, what as a disruptor to the local region may or it may not do, and how can it integrate with that? Because I think that there's aspects knowing it and knowing it's on my doorstep. I think that there's a lot of engagement that they need to do and the project needs to do with its neighbours and where it is before it goes forward even further. So I think that in the whole, it's an amazing project. I think the skills delivery and everything about the idea is fantastic. I think that it needs to consider other aspects, that it's not just coming in, landing, having that thing and then going away? What's the impact of the project and everyday things and long-lasting things on its doorstep? What is it going to take away from them over that period, or how's it going to affect them? And I don't think that's in any part of it.
Thank you. And obviously the development is ongoing as it is a whole year of a festival. And for a bid to have every nuance, every relationship laid out wouldn't necessarily be something I'd expect, because it'd be like a phone book. And also be expecting the small team to be focused on just one element when the WOW Festival is part of a whole year. But I do take your point, both of you gents, Bolu and then Saima.
I just say this sounds like it's really, really visual and really, really good in terms of the aspiration of it. The fact that they're going to build the barn, there's going to be so many people there, and the numbers they're talking about in terms of women and girls. I think it does have legacy wings. It's like, for me, when I'm looking at a project like this, that'd be something I'd send my daughter to, just to look at women and girls doing something completely out of the box. And that doesn't, and that, for me, I look at sports. I get one little young girl to play rugby league. Her family will play rugby league. Her daughter will play. Her granddaughter will play. And I think having things very visual, I think it's really good. And for me, the upskilling and training to do that will be really good. And I really obviously, I ain't got the details, but this would be really good to document and video the process of it and just really get it out there. Because it'll change the perception of women and girls when they're looking at the industry and they're looking at how do I start, how do I get into it? Because like you're saying, a lot of these will need training to do it. And it's knowing that you can start from being quite unskilled to get into the level where you're doing that, and this is quite visual, is really powerful. So, yeah, I think the impact for me is really, really interesting.
Thank you. And certainly as a father of a daughter, I'm really pleased that you can see the opportunity there for all young women across West Yorkshire. Simon?
Yeah, just a very quick point in terms of all the various points that have been raised. I think it's a great project. I think it's going to be really visual. It's it's WOW, and they are, everything they do is high scale. It gets lots of attention. I think in terms of the industry that it's in, it'll be really, really inspirational. We don't see much happening in that kind of space. I think the other point that I would just make is that I just think from my own experience of working with the team, everything that is sort of done on the other side in terms of the applications is really, really rigorous, and in terms of the impact that needs to come back, that also tends to be really rigorous. We're coming up to a point where we're going to be working with various years of culture. Things are not going to be completely laid out with a set square. There is going to be a little bit of movement, and people are going to need time to develop things. So I think if it's a case of there is an overall project, and this is not me saying that we shouldn't have scrutiny or any of that kind of thing, but I think that there just needs to be a little bit of an awareness, and I'm saying this as somebody, obviously from the culture sector point of view, just running events, the fact that actually you're going to need to have some sort of level of flexibility and actually a trust back in terms of the kind of reporting that comes back to the committee at this end, and that actually if the ideas are brilliant and they're impactful, they will have impact. I'm not just saying that we just wave things through, but I just think in terms of some of the level of detail that we're talking about, certainly from what I've seen of applications, you can't get an application through without that level of detail.
Thank you. That was to my point of my assurance colleagues having to tackle quite difficult assumptions that we can't see this at this moment, but we will be expecting it to come, because the development of the thinking is about the partnership work and co-creation with the young women. So there will be an element that is not there because the young women haven't been in the room yet. Yeah. Alan?
I'm aware of time, so I'll try and be really quick, but I think it speaks to what type of funder we're going to be. As you said, this is the first moment we became a funder as opposed to something else. Yes. And it's not appropriate for that level of scrutiny if Jim's going to prepare a paper. If you want that level of scrutiny, you need to get Jude Kelly in this room and say, we won't fund you unless you give us the answer to these questions, which is quite a decision, and we become a different thing then. And I think that we just sort of need to register. We've just changed format. And we need to be really careful that we're still the type of organisation we want to be and have that relationship. I'm not arguing for less or more scrutiny, and I'm not speaking about this project because that's not my place, but who we're going to be and our relationship to the money and our relationship to the organisations and artists is really important, because that's a summary document which I'm very happy to support. If we want to answer those questions, it's not appropriate to ask Jim. It's not appropriate for Jim to represent all that information in a document. It's not your fault you've been asked it. Then Jude or whoever needs to stand up, and I'm not comfortable being those people. I didn't sign up to be the Arts Council. That's a different thing.
My instinct, if everybody is happy, my instinct is, to Alan's point, who are we? Do we believe in our creatives? Do we believe in our heritage leads and our sportsmen and women? Do we believe in them to deliver for the people of West Yorkshire? Let me tell you the hoops that Leeds have jumped through for my assurance colleagues. I've been saying more light touch, because the project is still under development. We can't expect at this stage for every individual element of the project to be known. We just can't. And also it's very hard to quantify the outcomes for legacy. We will expect them. We will, as the process goes on, demand to see them. I think it's really difficult as this particular committee to demand we see the event on screen and then we buy that. I think it will always change. Now, I have heard really loud and clear from Whiskers and Nathan, you want to see more detail, and you also want to be more assured that you will be partners in the things that are happening. Could I suggest we accept this recommendation on the understanding everyone will get the Women of the World pack that Leeds 2023 have. Any questions that you have, we will definitely get to a response for you that hopefully will be satisfying, because there will be a point when we will be supporting all of you in a project you might not have all the answers for. And what I don't want is us to be putting on the brakes when actually what we have to keep doing is try and get the money out in the right way that's value for money, but has impact in our community, but really values the creative, visionary element of West Yorkshire. I
was just going to say, what I was trying to get at that point was I had the information available to me, but others didn't. So when he asked the question, I thought it was, and I've just sent it to you, Jim, I've sent it to you, Phil, on an email. I think that just is a point that when it comes to it, if there's a project of this size and the information's prepared from 2023, then I think it just needs sharing. And that's just one of the things that I was saying. The legacy, I'll go back.
That's really helpful. We will share that pack. It is not usual in committees that that level of detail is shared, because there is an assumption of confidence in the process. But I absolutely understand. And this is why you and Whiskers and practitioners are incredibly valuable to this committee, because you know how it works out there. You know what the challenges are going to be. And it's a really valuable challenge. We will address it. Sorry, you wanted to come in, Nikki?
It was also just to remember that this is a project for women, to be created by women. So an awful lot of the expectation of what you might see delivered is to be delivered yet. So just to bear that in mind, that women are going to be creating this, which is really powerful. And so it's almost a bit of a stand back situation where we're allowing people to create, let them create, because we trust those practitioners to deliver and create the environment for whatever it is that's created. It's probably not for us to judge whether or not that's right or not, because it's coming from women for women.
Thank you. That's really valuable. This is an extraordinary project, and there will be many extraordinary projects that we won't be able to cross every T, dot every I, because where is the creativity if it's already laid out? Where is the development of the artists and so on? So really great challenge. Thank you. If we are minded to agree, I know Leeds 2023 and the WOW team would be delighted, because then they can get on knowing the security that the money is in place. All happy? Thank you all so much. That's fantastic. So finally, item 12, the Creative Catalyst. The paper's just for information, so just to take that away. And the next meeting is on March the 28th. That seems a long way away for such one of my favourite committees. So let's hope we can get the barbecue in before March the 28th. So no pressure to Alan Lane.
Magnificent. It should be magnificent.
Thank you all, everybody, for your contribution. It's really valuable.